everybody. Welcome to the 11th session of the FFI Fly Tyers Group Fly Tying Techniques program. Tonight we have Rick Passek, Canadian northern neighbor from BC, Canada, who's going to be talking about booby eyes and CDC techniques. I'm going to give you a little background on Rick. Rick's the author of the Freshman Fly Fishing book series. Fly tyer and fly fishing instructor Rick has been fly fishing for more than 35 years. He specializes in entomology and fly tying to create flies representing the fly food for the species he is after: trout, salmon, steelhead, and or tropical fish. Rick has written 2 books, The Freshman Fly Tyer and The Freshman Fly Fisher's Insect Guide. Rick is a pro staff with Up Avon and Anorex hooks, Airflow and Ross reels, Moby nets, and Fly Life Canada. And he's also with renowned scissors. You can check Rick out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as his own website, and on YouTube on the Fly Fish Fanatic channel. Welcome, Rick, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for having me tonight. Like you said, it's been a little crazy with all the trade shows and presentations and Zoom presentations that I do for clubs in the UK and around the world. So it's something I really enjoy doing. So yeah, so today I'm gonna have to update that bio on YouTube. That was a good one because there's a ton of changes there. Yeah, so I'll have to update that. But yeah, I'm pro staff with a bunch of different companies, hens products out of Czechia, Arex out of Denmark, Up Avon out of the UK, and a bunch of different companies down in the States, and Renomed scissors out of Poland. So let's get tying. So today what I wanted to show you guys is it's just, I don't know how many of you guys use boobies. So this is, let's get rid of this. This is it's a British fly that's been around a long time. It's an attractor pattern. It's mainly still waters. This is a booby. Okay, this is a style of booby. This is a pink booby with a little bit of a flashy underbody. And the reason they call this a booby is because of the eyes. Originally, way back in the day, probably 40 years ago, they originally called this the Dolly Parton. And then somebody got upset about that, so they ended up calling it the booby. So, but this is a British style fly. It's an attractor. It's one to just get them mad. And I tie them mostly in pinks and oranges, but in blacks as well. Later pinks, and I've got several boxes of them. I tie them fairly big, fairly small, anything from about a size 12 down to a 16. And they're extremely effective. So there's different ways to tie in the eyes. And if you can see on a booby tube, it is, just let me grab, here, I'll grab just so you guys can see it without my fingers in the way. So a booby tube is square cut on both ends, okay? So if I'm gonna tie this in now, the problem with boobies is they wanna spin when you're casting them because of these square ends. So what we normally do is we'll cut this tube in half, right? And use half of a tube, tie that in with a figure 8, and then you just go around with your scissors and you try to round it as well as possible. There's a couple of companies out there that have made booby tubes pre-rounded. Rainey's is one of the big ones. The problem with Rainey's is they're like, in Canada at least, they're about $14 for 6 tubes, right? And it's insane. So so what we've come up with is just different ways of tying them in. And a good buddy of mine, his name is Gary Hankey, out of Alberta. He's a Gaia certified fly tying instructor, the only one in all of Canada. He came up with a different technique and he showed me, and ever since, that's all I do. So you can see the difference between that, and I'll try to put it this way so you guys can see the difference. So that one's tied in the regular way, and the edges are cut. The next one I'm going to show you is tied in a different way, which is what I'll demonstrate, and there's no cutting involved. So it rounds those edges up on you, right? And here's one, just so you can see, just done on a hook with nothing else. But you can see that it totally rounds those edges. So you don't have that issue of it wanting to spin in the water and when you're casting. So just give you guys a quick demo. And don't mind me if I got my finger in the air. I poked the crap out of it with a hook yesterday, and it's a little sore, so I'm kind of holding it out of the way. So the only thing that you have to be concerned about with booby foam, well, any foam, but with booby foam, is the type of thread you're using. This, in this case, is nano silk, and from Semperfly. Whether you use nano silk or GSP from a different company, it doesn't matter. Nano silk is so sharp that I can cut through this booby tube with nothing. I can just pull it through and just cut it, right? Just like that, right? So you got to be really careful when you're tying foam in with the nano silk. So I always try to make sure I counterclockwise spin to flatten my nano silk, because that gives you a flatter, wider profile. So I'll show you two different ways. This is the normal way of tying in a booby tube. So we just kind of center it and do a figure eight. Okay, that's a normal style of putting a booby tube in. And you can't go too tight, like I said, because you end up cutting the tube. So you just figure eight through here as best you can, and they will turn on you. There's just not much you can do because you can't crank down too much. But if you just go kind of under it, that'll lock it a little bit. And then what I'll normally do is I'll tie it to that point, I'll whip finish it, and then I'll just go in and I'll put a couple of drops of crazy glue on the bottom. And once that's set, then I'll come back and tie the rest. Okay, just see if I can get it tied down a little tighter. I'm trying to tighten it on the shank of the hook, so it's a bit better. So now what I would have to do is cut this to the size I'd like. Let's just say there, and then this one just a little bit less. So that's about even, give or take, right? And now I'd have to have to go in there and have to just round these edges all the way, make sure they're, rounded off. So that's basically what you end up doing with a regular booby tube. Okay. Just gonna cut that off, get rid of that hook for now.
Rick, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Do you ever use super glue or?
That's, yep. I use, this is what I use is sometimes Gorilla Glue, super brush on. But the one I really like is this one, Mercury Adhesives M5T. I've noticed that this one, even over Loctite and any other one, especially if I'm coating a fly, this doesn't turn gray or get milky or foamy. The Mercury Adhesives M5T. And this one is a thin, so it's like really liquidy. Like, I don't want to really show you, but let's see if I can. You can see how it just really, really thin, right? So it'll soak into that booby foam from underneath really easy. This is more of a gel, so it doesn't soak in as well. So I much prefer the M5T. And then I think it's the M5M, I think it is, or M5. I can't remember. I think it's M5M is the thicker one. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So now I'm going to show you the other way. And I said, I don't know how many of you guys fish lakes and do boobies and stuff like that, but They're extremely popular in Great Britain, and they've become very popular up here in Western Canada. A lot of the guys still need to learn how to fish them because it's a different way of fishing, but they are very, very getting very popular, and they're very effective. So again, here's a booby tube, right? Just a normal, here, I'll use this one, normal booby tube. So the first thing I do with these is I'll cut it like that. Just give it a cut on an angle on either end. Okay. And then what I do, once I've got my thread on, I'm going to fold this over so the tips are touching each other with the cut ends out. Okay. Then this just goes onto either side of the hook. And I just kind of slide it in there like that. And then I'll pinch it with these fingers, and then I'll go around a whole bunch of times, and then I'll start working my way back over that material. So now I've tied it in like that. Okay. So now what I've do is lift this straight up, and I'll bring my thread right up. It's going to be hard to see, but right up into the center and over, and I'll just pull that down. I'll do it again. No, that's not centered. That's the only tough part of this, is that making sure you get it's centered so the eyes are balanced, because if they're not balanced, you can't cut this, right? Now I can just tighten this a bit, and as I tighten it from the coming around the back like I am now, it kind of rolls over, and then if I go this way, it'll roll backwards. So I can kind of adjust how I want it. But there is your tube. Now one's not perfectly centered. I'd have to go back and undo it. But you see how it's rounded all the way, and you still leave your it's hard for me to show you. Still leave your tie-in, your eye free. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it leaves your eye free. And now when you're doing this, again, you're going to have to put crazy glue in. See if I can get this balanced a bit better. May have to actually undo it. Maybe not. I might have got it. Still want to put crazy glue on these, because it doesn't matter what they are. Booby eyes will try to spin on you. So, and then I'm just going to go under it, under it, under it, under it, under it, and then one more figure eight, and there you go. So there's your booby eyes tied in instead of being tied in this way. And there's two advantages to this. One, it's got the rounded edges already and perfectly rounded. You don't have to worry about, oh, I didn't cut that right or whatever. So that's one. They're nicely rounded. And two, I've used half of a booby tube, right? Only half in this one. This one, I've used an entire booby tube. So you're going to get a lot more buoyancy out of this than you will out of this, right? Because you used pretty well double the amount of foam. So this will be a lot more buoyant. And actually, the way I got this tied in, it actually tightened up really nicely. I probably wouldn't even need to put crazy glue on this. I will anyway. I'll come back and tie this one into a proper booby later. Yeah, using a lighter does work as well. It does, but it doesn't give you that really nice rounded tube. It just, all that does is, do I have a lighter handy? I do in my other bag, but all that does is kind of just melt the edge, right? This rounds the whole thing. So that's one. This won't spin in the water as much or casting. And the big advantage is, like I said, it's double. You've got double the foam in there, right? You don't, because if I would put this booby tube on just like this. I mean, look how much bigger that is, right? Let me get this again so my fingers are out of the way, right? So, right, look how much bigger that is. And it's this pretty well the same amount of foam, other than just that little bit of an angle that I've cut off, right? So it is the, like I said, my buddy Gary came up with this way of tying them in, and most of the guys over in the UK now tie them in this way. So it's sorry, it's just a more efficient way of doing it, getting a lot of buoyancy out of it, right? So, right, compare it again to a hand cut one, and then this here is what's in there. So you get a heck of a lot more in doing it this way too. So you get that buoyancy. Now, if you don't want that much buoyancy, if you're going to a smaller fly like this guy, what I did with this one is this is a 6 mil booby tube. I took a 4 mil booby tube and did the same thing. Tied it the same way, just with a 4 mil booby tube. So I get this is still lots of buoyancy because it's a whole tube, but it's a smaller tube for a smaller size fly. So I'll use a 4 mil for anything 16 and 14, 12s and 10s. I'll use the 6 mil. And that's about it. I don't go any bigger than 10s. So like I said, it was just something I thought I'd share with you guys. I don't know how many of you guys use boobies, tie boobies. I just wanted to show you that quickly, give a little presentation on just a different way of tying in the eyes. So we'll get away from that.
That's great,
Sorry?
Rick.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad you did that.
Like I said, it's just a different way, right? And if you guys want to look up Gary Hankey on YouTube, he's got a video about 10 minutes long where he ties in 2 or 3 of them. And you can see it slower, and you can actually pause it and stuff, and you can see exactly how he does it. But it ends up exactly the same way. And then when I tie in I tie in a tail then, right? So I tie in just try to split this so you guys can see. Tie in my marabou tail, and then I tie in my whatever kind of body. It can be a flashed body. It can be a, I'll show you another one here. It can be like a Palmer chenille body, any kind of thing like that. And then you tie in your little wing bud right behind the booby eyes. And then quite often what I'll end up doing is, see if I've got one that has, yeah, like this one here. I'll just put a little bit of dubbing in there as well, right between the eyes and behind the eyes. And it kind of hides because it can get a little ugly underneath when you're tying it, right? The thread and stuff can get kind of ugly. But if you're using matching colored thread, it doesn't really matter. And really, it's you're tying, at that point, you're tying for the tyer, not for the fish, right? I mean, they don't give a crap if there's a little bit of extra thread on the bottom. But yeah, so let's put that away and get going on to the CDC portion. So I'm going to show you guys. It is going to be a different methods, but I'm going to tie a whole fly for you guys. It's one of my go-to damsel flies, and it has 3 different methods of tying in CDC. This whole thing is CDC. There's the only non-CDC in it. It will be the thread, a set of eyes, and some. Let's see if I've some olive wire, small olive wire. Everything else is CDC in this whole fly. So, and like I said, it shows 3 different ways of tying in the CDC and using it. So this is I'm a huge fan of these hooks, Hens brand out of Czechia, and the 2 brands I use, you will not find anything else in my bags. Is these 2, Hens and Arex. Hens out of Czechia If I'm doing any comps, I'm using the hens. Any just day-to-day type fishing, I'm using the Arex. These guys are out of Denmark. These guys are out of Czechia. And any time I'm doing any kind of competition fishing, I'm using these ones, hens. They're all barbless. They all got laser points, and they're just super sharp and hold really well. So okay, so let's get going. Let me see, where did I put my green thread? Oh, oh, no, no, no. Okay, I don't know where I put my green thread. I got so many packages going because I'm going to a trade show in a day, and I probably packed it away. Now, you know what? I'll just use the chartreuse one. So the watery olive. So I'm just, like I said, this is a BL 700 in a size 12. It's a light wire and an extra long. It's 2XL. But the big one for me is that it's light wire. When I'm tying damsels, I want these things to be as light as possible. I tie them in on a I fish them on a floating line, and I want these things to be just 4 to 6 inches below the surface when I'm fishing them. And if you ever watch damselflies migrate, they come straight up in the water column, and then they'll swim across the water columns anywhere between the surface and about a foot down, and they'll swim all the way to shore, an island, an anchor rope, or whatever, right? So I'm just going to tie on my eyes here. Again, my finger's killing me because I poked the crap out of it, so hopefully it'll stay centered because I'm having a hard time using it. Just make sure that's flat about there. So just do figure eight through it, and then underneath it, underneath it, underneath it, underneath it, figure eight through it, and done. So now I'm going to take some CDC. This is again from that company out of Czechia, hens. You want good quality CDC. If you can find, good quality, it's well worth spending the extra money. Hens is actually, I would say decent. I won't say it's great. You get some nice feathers, quite a few really nice feathers in the hens packages. But you also get a lot what I would consider more like garbagey feathers too, right? So it just depends what you're looking for, right? But because of all the different ways I'm going to show you guys, you can use the good feathers, you can use the crap feathers, all in this. I'm just trying to find two decent, there we go. I want two decent feathers that look about the same, and I stack them on top of each other. And I'm just going to have a look. I'm just going to try to work it back and see that so now I'm going to use this as a tail. I'm going to tie this in just like I would marabou. Okay. Like that. I'm just going to, again, can't use that little finger. And I'm just going to tie this in as close to the eye as possible, but all the way back. And then as I do with all my tails, I lift and go behind them and over, and lift and go behind them and over 3 times. All that does is help it not foul, right? So when this slicks down, this will look a lot like a tail on a damsel, right? And it'll move. I mean, CDC moves so well, right? So come back to the front.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Question in the chat asking if you would repeat the YouTube site that shows the various techniques for tying in the boobies.
It's my buddy. His name is Gary. Last name is Hanke, Hanke. If you just go to his site and just look, he doesn't have very many videos. It's not his forte, but his video on tying in booby eyes is excellent. So
Also, there's a question about whether those the green eyes are glass.
Nope, plastic. They're a monofilament. They're just a pre-made monofilament eye. I mean, and I like I always use oh, excuse me, almost always, 99% of the time, I use light green, these greeny eyes on my damsels. If you capture them in nature, very often they have these green, sometimes a blacky brown, but green is very popular for their eyes. So, and then depending on the size, like that, these are an extra small. I probably could have got away with the small on this one, right? Or actually, they're a medium. Probably could have gone with a medium, but damsel eyes are not something that stand out a lot. So, and you'll see why in a minute as well. So that was step one. I'm tying it in just like I do with marabou. This will, like I said, it'll move and pulsate and do this in the water. It'll just swim like a minnow, which that's, if you take a look at how damsels swim, they're always doing that like this. That's how and this tail will do that. So now what I do is I go through my CDC and I'm looking for the junkier feathers, right? Any of that kind of stuff, right? The junkier stuff that I know I'm not going to use for other types of CDC. And I'm just going to wax my thread and I'm going to use my CDC as dubbing. I'm just pulling it off, kind of ripping it up a little bit. I waxed my thread a bit. And this is, like I said, it's a good way to use the crappy feathers that you don't really use in the normal, typical CDC way, right? Those ones that you want to throw away normally out of your bag, which, I mean, CDC is so darn expensive sometimes for good quality. You don't want to throw any of it away. So just gonna get that started. And just like dubbing, if you need to tighten it up, right? Just gonna rip off a bunch more here. And I don't try not to go crazy tight with my dubbing, with my CDC dubbing, but you don't want it too thick of a body either, right? So there we go. Now I'll just counter wrap my wire. Sometimes I'll use silver. Majority of the time I'll use like an olive, something that'll blend in because damsels are not very segmented. So I'm just tying that down, helicoptering off my wire. If there's any of these stragglers, you can just pull them out if you want. It really doesn't matter much because this will all slick back when it's really wet, right? Then I'm going to take so depends on what kind you like, material clips. This one is from a company in Italy called Stonefo. They're come in 3 different sizes. This size is the biggest. This is the medium, and then there's a smaller one. I don't have the small one anymore because I found it useless. So the thing I don't like about these is if you see, let's see if I can get it lined up. You see it's got a bit of a step right here. There's a little bit of a step right there. And when you're trying to bring your thread and your dubbing loop over top of that, a lot of times it'll go boom, and it'll knock it off. I still, to be honest, I go to the dollar store and I pick up these bag chip clips, and this one's been really beat up. But this is still my preferred. I still go to this one 9 times out of 10. Now, yeah, I know there's like the Mark Petitjean one and a bunch of others. There's some real high-end ones, but I don't usually. I don't go crazy with super expensive tools. Materials, yes. Tools, no. So now I want to take one full feather. I don't want just the one side. I want both sides, right? So I'll lift it up in a second, but I've got a little tool here on my bench from Stonefo where you can just take your feather and push it in. And if I can get my fingers in there again, one finger is really hampering. So it's pushed both sides up, right? So both sides are now up. Stem is down. If you can see, there's the stem. It's down in the groove. And then so you've got that whole feather. Now I'm just going to grab that with my clip. Just go right up against the bingo, right? So now I've got that entire feather in my clip and not the stem. So these, for doing CDC, these types of, there's so many different companies make them. This just happens to be from Stoneful. They're invaluable to the CDC person that's using CDC. So now you can do either a split thread or a dubbing loop. I'm going to do a dubbing loop and just get that in, bring my thread forward. Just going to put my dubbing loop on the side for a second, and I'm going to do a half hitch because I know myself. I very often will go and knock the thread off and whoop, there it goes, right? So now it's up to you, whatever kind of dubbing spinner you like. Another one from, I'm not sponsored by Stoneful, but everything I own is. This is a Stoneful one, so just you can just with one finger give it a good spin. And the nice thing with this is once you've spun it all up, you don't want to have to wrap all the way around with this long handle. It just pops off, and all you're left with is this piece, right? The only downfall to this as well is this can get really loose in the bearing after time. And while you're spinning it, sometimes it'll pop off while you're spinning it. So kind of got to be a little careful with these. Again, 9 times out of 10, I end up going to this cheap $4 dubbing spinner just because I like it. So, and that's the one I'm going to use this time. Just going to let that sit there. Don't let them twist up. Just let it sit. And then I'll take my longer scissors. These are my longer ones. And I'm just going to go and just clip right close to that. Right close. So that's all that's left. So I've used that whole feather up. Take my wax. I would just give even if it's wax thread, which this is, but I like giving it just a little bit of extra wax. And I'll put my tool in. I'll just grab that. Then with these, you've got to pinch your thread, give your dubbing spinner a spin, and then let it go slowly. And that'll take that spin into your CDC. Give it one more little spin. Don't overspin when you're using non-GSPs because they'll break. GSPs, you can spin the living daylights out of them. So now I do 1, 2 right behind, and then I'm going to go in front, figure 8, put that back, figure 8, until I use that all up. And then just tie that off. My scissors, get in there and cut that dubbing loop off. And then I'll wet my fingers a bit and just make sure that all this material is back and out of the way. And then I'll build up a little bit of a head here.
Hey, Rick.
Yo.
Question in the chat asked about how you place the CDC in the dubbing loop. And he noticed that you did it asymmetrically, scooted to one side, and he asked why you did that.
Scooted to one side. I'm not sure what that means.
So you had most of the CDC barbs coming out one side and a very short section on the other side.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. That because I want the length of the one side, right? If I would have done it halfway through, these legs wouldn't have been as long, right? They would have been half the length. If I would have grabbed the CDC and put it halfway along the barbs, like if I would have grabbed it, let's say like that, and then put it in right by the stem, you'd end up with out of both sides. I want that length, right? I want the full length of these legs, of these barbs, right? So that's it, right? These will act as little legs, and they'll pulsate really, really well, and they'll just pulsate, right? So they're the CDC is, like I said, it's one of my favorite materials. I can't live without CDC and dubbing. Those are my two. Like, I can't live without them, right? So and I do a lot of CDC work, and if everything from let's see if I even have anything here. I just cleaned up my little box. I do a lot of jigs and stuff like that with CDC collars, and I do use a lot of CDC in my even in my leeches. I'll grab black CDC, right? And again, quality CDC. I know for a fact I've used almost all the big long black feathers out of this, right? But I'll tie a leech up, like a dubbing leech or marabou leech, whatever kind, and then I'll put a collar of this around. Same way I did this, but just right behind the bead if there's a bead, or no bead, just as behind where the head is. And that CDC, it just, the way it pulsates and the way it moves in the water. And if you can zoom in, I don't know if I can, if it'll, where are you? Which camera are we? Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but you see every little barbule's got those little tiny hairs. So each piece has 100 little hairs coming off of it. Each one of those little hairs can hold little pockets, little bubbles of water, right? Sorry, of air. And as it's going through the water, it'll shimmer and shine, right? CDC. That's the beauty of CDC, right? It just the way that it moves. Yeah, I'm not really happy with this tail, but yeah, that's the finished fly. And when it's wet, this will slick right back. But as you strip this, every time you strip it, these will pulsate and they'll move and they'll look like little legs every time, right? But they slick right back. Yes.
Question on what color the CDC was.
It's just a straight olive. I tie this in. Show you 3 different colors primarily. So straight olive, light olive, or watery olive, depends what you want to call it. And this one's going to make you guys go, hey, really? But chartreuse. That's the 3 colors I tie my damsels in. I do tie some in what is it? A light, kind of almost like a tan color. Where is it? In this kind of tanny gray as well. But my 3 go-tos definitely are the chartreuse, the watery olive, and the regular olive. Those are my 3, definitely my 3 go-tos. I know it sounds weird with the chartreuse, but I have found so many chartreuse damsels and dragons in my lakes. It's crazy. It's crazy how many you can find. So let's put all this away. Whoa, what else did I have planned for you guys?
We're talking about palmering CDC.
Yeah.
My question is, doing a woolly bugger, but instead of using a feather as the palmered,
that's exactly what I do.
Use CDC.
It's exactly what I do, and that's what I meant by palmering it. I think this one has it. Yeah. So this is not a finished fly. This was just a demo fly that I did for another club. So this is a palmered CDC, basically woolly bugger. Right. So I just tied it in with if you've got really good good, like high end, and I mean high end. There's only a couple of guys in the world that make them, the very high end CDC that can, sorry, not to make them, but gather them. Um, if you don't have the very high end ones, then you have to put it into a dubbing loop, and that's what this is. So it's been put into a dubbing loop and then palmered forward on the body, right? Just like you would a cockhackle, right? And then an extra 2 or 3 turns at the front to give it a bit of a collar. Done.
Okay.
Right?
Do you use a marabou tail on that then?
On this one, I could put a marabou tail on. It's like I said, I just did this as a palmering demonstration, but this is just think of this as a woolly bugger. So put your tail in, put your flash in your tail, tie in your dubbing, put your dubbing loop in as your hackle, put a little bit of dubbing going forward or chenille or whatever you like, and then dub that, like open that palmer that forward as your hackle. And then at the front, you may run out. So at the front, just do over again what I just did and just add in some more in a dubbing loop and get that, right? Get that more of a collar.
Oh, that would be
Right?
a wild woolly bugger.
Oh, they flow like crazy. So this is another one that I tied yesterday, and I was going to tie this one for you guys. And this is another one I tie. It's kind of in a British style, but it's a absolute killer. And again, it's with CDC, right? But lots of movement in that spay hackle-ish almost. It's not spay hackle. It's okay. Where did it go? I just dropped it. Okay, where'd it go? Right here. Sorry. So it's right. That's what I'm using for this tail, or it's the collar, right? Just a dubbed body with a little bit of this as a tail, and then again. So I'll tie this one for you guys and show you what I mean. But there's so many different ways of using CDC. So many times people just, oh, okay, it's only for collars, it's only for dry flies. I'll be honest, I think I use CDC probably. I'm just going to grab a box, all the stuff so I'm just going to get in there and again, wax. It's a big, I'm a big proponent of waxing everything, right? And normally, and I don't know why I do this all the time on presentations, because when I'm tying myself, I do it. At the end of every stage, I put a half hitch in, right? So tail, half hitch, body, half hitch, collar, half hitch, second collar, half hitch, right? It just becomes second nature to you. I don't know why I forget to do it when I'm doing presentations. So I'm going to lay this down right on the side of the hook. Do a loose wrap and then tighten up. Come forward, go back.
Sounds like you're a Norvise guy.
Yeah, actually, it's not from Norm Norlander. It's actually from my buddy Gary. I don't know if you guys have heard of Gaia, but Gaia is a world body that you have to apply to, and you have to write your own fly tying program and school and class, and then send that into them, and they have to approve it to get that Gaia certification. There's only, I think, 50 around the world that have it, and Gary is the only one in all of Canada. Right? So the technical end of fly tying, Gary is phenomenal. The artistic end, or coming up with patterns and stuff, not so much. Right?
Jerry Coviello, longtime FFI and FTG member, has been working with to get his certification.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's a great certification for people in the fly tying world. I mean, those that are learning to fly tie, honestly, probably don't give a shit. But so I've just got it on my dubbing clip here, and I'm just stroking all this material back. Then I'm going to give it 1 full turn, 2 full turns. I usually do 3, but it depends on the feather. and I just try to make sure I don't capture anything. You always inevitably do, but you can always brush it after. So I just try to make sure I don't catch very many. Right, and then if you're starting to have a problem with catching, what I do is I'll remove. There, it just popped off. Sorry, just popped off my dubbing, my material clip. Grab that again. Do that again. So once, twice, 3 times. Let's go one more. 4 times, and then I'll get in there, and it looks ugly. It'll look better in a second. But we all know that as fly tyers, things can get really ugly before they get really nice. So then I'm just going to grab that center stem that I was using to hold this piece here, and you can give it a twist. It'll pop off. And then just go over top. Again, give your spin, counterclockwise spin to flatten your thread. And then build just a little bit of a head. Then I'll take my little dubbing brush, just give this a, separate those fibers out. So when this gets nice and thin, this will pulsate a lot. So now, same as we did earlier, let's grab some, this is going to be brown CDC. So it depends what color you're tying this in. If it's if you want it more olivey, tie it in more olive colors. I would have done more of an olive dubbing, and then I would have used a different colored hackle, because this has got that little bit of that orangey reddish kind of hue to it, right? So I'm kind of just going with other materials that are the same-ish color or complementary color, let's call it. So now I'm going to grab 2 of my CDC feathers, going to stack them on top of each other. And this can be a little bit of a pain in the butt if you don't have exact same size feathers, which I don't right now. So let me see if I can find a more of a matching size. That's getting closer. So then all I'm doing is I'm going to grab 2 of these and lay them on top of each other, like so. And then I'm going to push this into that tool that I had that I showed you guys earlier. And that'll push up all those CDC feathers, right? So there's 2 of them in there this time. I've done up to 6, that's as many as I've ever done, but that's for like a big fly. I'm going to grab my handy dandy clamp. Again, in there, bring that down further. So it's in there. And now I'm just going to cut right below that stem. So there's 2 full CDC feathers in there. So the more you want, the more you add, right? And that's the beauty of having these, right? These material clamp. No, it's not a clamp. I don't know. Prep tool. I don't know. So again, dubbing loop or split thread, whatever you prefer. Put that off to the side. Give myself a half hitch, because again, I know myself, I will knock it off when I'm doing this. I'm a old school millwright and welder by trade, so I've got these big clunky hands that I've smashed way too many times with a hammer and don't feel much. So this time I'm going to use this. Oh, that bobbin, yeah, this one here. Yeah, I know at $50 they're not bad. And actually, even though I'm pro team with this company, which is, these are phenomenal scissors, the Renomeds, This is another one from the Flysmith, and these talk about sharp pair of scissors. These are unbelievably, and you can always adjust them too, right? So again, from the same guy, Brian Smith. So, okay, not here to promote him. So just again, wax, just wiping off a little bit of that wax. That's a homemade wax that a buddy of mine makes for me. And it gets a little sticky. You see, it picks up every little piece of hair and everything off your table. So it's great stuff, but it's also a pain in the butt. So now again, same as I did before, go in. And you know what? I'm just going to show you guys something before I did with this, what I was explaining to you guys about before. Remember this one? So if I put this in there now, you see it's got a bit of a bump there, and it always wants to jump off of, when you put your thread in, it always wants to jump off of there, and quite often it'll pop right off, and they're just a pain in the butt. So you always want a nice smooth surface for these, so it'll just slide off like you like it. And I'm just pulling kind of tight, and I'm just slowly turning on my dubbing spinner till I've got it how I like it. And then I can pop off the handle, right? So now I'm just have to deal with this piece instead. So now what I like doing is just taking my dubbing brush and just lightly, very lightly, going in and getting any of those trapped fibers if there is any, right? I wet my fingers and slick this stuff back so it stays out of my way as best as possible. And if one doesn't want to cooperate, just get in there and get it out of the way. Like a bugger. And then just wrap it. And I'm going to wrap real tight against that pheasant rump. Real tight against that pheasant rump and stroke back. And real tight and almost on top of the last layer. I want a pretty good head here. And probably get one more in here. So now this is almost kind of like a rolled muddler, right? Get that big poofy head. But a totally different material. Again, stroke that out of the way. And I like moving my hook a bit more in the upright position. And then I'll get my whip finisher. Get in there, just build up a little bit of a head. And then if you've got a few little straggler feathers in your eye, CDC can, I don't have my lighter. CDC is really good. You can just hold this back and it's gone instantly. But there's that same fly that I showed you here, right? So again, building heads on your woolly buggers, on your carries, on your spratleys, on your any kind of a nymphal pattern. Dragonflies, it works really well on dragonflies. Tied in, what the heck do you call that style? You can tie this in from the butt this way. Actually, why don't I just show you guys quickly? How much time do I have left?
Well, another 10 minutes.
Okay, so I'll show you one other little thing, and I'm not going to tie a whole fly. I'm just going to. So often,
take whatever time you need.
Yeah. So when you're tying in like doing a prince nymph or a pheasant tail nymph or anything like that, quite often you'll take and this might not work perfectly because I'm not tying the whole fly, but just as an example, let's say you've come up and created your fly, and now you've built up to, well, that's going to be too much, but up to there, let's say. Tear that off, just keep that in there for now. You've done your body, okay, up to there. Now what you can do is tie in CDC feather, butt first, and try to keep it on top of your hook. And just give it a couple of turns and then make sure it's right on top. Just maybe check here. Yeah, right on top. Tie that butt right down. Like I said, let's just say I'm making like a pheasant tail or something like that. Take a little bit more dubbing. I'm going to make our thorax. Right, and then you can bring this forward like that. And normally I'd have another piece of like mylar or something like that. Just spread that like that. Tie that down. And now you've cut that off. And now you've just created yourself 6 or 8 or 10 little legs, right, on either side. Right? So now you can cut, if these are too long, obviously they are. I'm not gonna cut it. I'm just gonna rip them with my fingers because, like I say on every presentation I do, nothing in nature is square, so don't cut it. Right? And there you go. You've just tied yourself your little, come on, here, right? So now it's kind of hard to see there. Any better?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? So it's split. It's like you do with like a Hungarian partridge feather or whatever, right? If you can do it with another feather, you can do it with CDC, almost for sure, right? And this won't stick out like a Hungarian partridge does. Like it won't stay leggy. When this gets wet, it'll slick back, but it'll pulsate, which is the nice thing, right? What's the prior fly called here? I don't know. The one I've been fishing for a few years. It's I don't know what you want to call it. I've been fishing this in the lakes for 8 years now. It started off as a carry special, right, because the carry special is very similar but doesn't have the CDC head. So maybe call it a CDC carry. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a name for it. It's just something. Trout hunter flying my time. There you go. Rick's rump. There you go. Woohoo! I like that.
Oh.
You don't want to see my rump though. But so normally, like I said, what I would do there in here, let's just say, is I would have put in a piece of like a mylar flash hoop, mylar back or something like that right in there, and that would have helped hold those legs apart as well, right? So, but it's just another, like I said, for me, CDC is one of those materials that, I mean, if you take a look in my material box, I probably have every single color of CDC you can possibly imagine. And I've got high quality CDC and I got cheap CDC. And the only time I ever use cheap CDC is if I am using it as a dubbing. If any other reason, I don't use it. CDC is one of those materials that, just like a good hackle, you don't want to go and buy some cheap, junky Chinese saddle off of AliExpress or something. Go buy, you're wanting to go and buy good quality, right? You don't mess around with your cock hackle. And I have this exact same philosophy when it comes to CDC. I can't remember the gentleman's name. If I remember, I'll send an email to Rick and let you know, because by far I have never found a better CDC on the planet than this guy out of the UK. It's not cheap, definitely not cheap. You're paying probably 5 times what you would pay for CDC here. But he hand picks through every single bag. There is none of this in there, right? There's none of this crappy little tiny pieces, right? There's no, it is of the highest quality. And like I said, if I can find his, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and I should have prepared. But if I can remember, well, no, I know I can remember. I just got to find it again. I'll send you guys. I'll send Rick the link, and he can share that with you guys because it is 100% the best quality CDC you've ever found, guaranteed.
Okay.
How was Swiss's? How was Chris Kuhlmeister's CDC? You know, from the Swiss CDC company.
His is, I would say, top 5.
Okay.
But not, again, not qual. Oh man, now it's bugging me. Can't use my phone to search because my phone is what I'm presenting with. So, like I said, I'll find it and it's a guy's name. It's like Andre Kulip or something like that. I can't remember his name, but it's not a company name. And all he does is CDC. That's it, nothing else. And he'll get bags and bags and bags of CDC, like huge Ziploc bags, right, full of CDC. And he'll go through that, and he might get out of this bag, get this that he believes is good enough to send out.
Wow.
Right. So he is very, very particular. Like a bag like this is a 5-ounce bag. This bag, 5-ounce bag from Hens, is about about $50 Canadian, so 35 American. And it's a big bag, a 5-ounce. I mean, this is like, you can see it in my hand. It's a huge bag. But out of this, I bet you this guy would pick. If he got this out of it, I'd be shocked. Right? That's how picky he is. So, and the only thing with him is you get grays, tans, olives, blacks, and that's about it. You will not get any dyed stuff from him. It's all natural. Right? So
I want a bunch of stuff on another fly tying
that's the one.
show.
That's Jalenka. That's the one. Sorry.
Yeah, I won a bunch of stuff on another fly fishing show from up in Calgary last 2 years ago. Anyway,
Okay.
one of the things that was in that package that I got was 3 packages of CDC. And I'm telling you what, it's the best CDC I've ever seen in my life.
And
It's
is it from
nice
him,
and
David?
long, and
Is that
I
from
don't
David?
know. What's that?
Oh, is it from the guy that was somebody just posted in the chat? Is it David Jalenka or Jalenka?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I'll have to look
Because-
at it.
because he's the guy that I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's the guy I'm talking about. He's got got his name from Barry Ord Clark's latest book. There you go. Yep. And I mean, like I said, if you want high quality, like I said, for Hens, in my opinion, for just off the shelf, CDC that you can get off, just off the shelf at a fly shop, probably the best I've found.
Huh.
But it doesn't compare, even close compare to his.
Okay.
So
One thing I was going to ask you, Rick, is if you could put together, when you got a chance and you remember, a materials list for the CDC carry special, and send it to me, then I can send it out to everybody. And I'm referencing the person that was saying that so many
Yeah.
materials, and that's kind of what I like to do if at all possible. That way it gives people a chance to see what was used, and then they can research what it is.
not a problem. I can send you something tomorrow. I'm actually, tomorrow is a bit of a down day, and then Thursday I start my travel down to Vancouver for the trade show, and I'm busy for the next week. But tomorrow is a bit of a down day, so I'll send you something tomorrow.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then
So
our next invitation that goes out from FFI, and plus the one that I send out, we'll just include all these links in there, so people can have an opportunity to see what our speakers have been talking about and where to get it and that sort of thing.
yeah, just give me one more second. I got one more thing to show you guys. Eventually, all my fly boxes will be on my table. So here's some more British style. You guys fish a lot of chironomids in your lakes, or are you guys mostly river guys?
I'm a river guy, but
Yeah. Okay.
Totally lake.
So, okay. So here, so this chironomids, when chironomids go and they come to the surface and they get stuck in the shuck, they call it, right? Because sometimes they will. They won't make it out. They're crippled. Shuttlecock,
Ah,
and that's all CDC. CDC back, CDC shuttle, right? Extremely, extremely effective British pattern. And I tie them in a multitude of different, right? So that one's got the red butt and the red rib and a little bit of a browny red thorax. Then I'll go more, oh, not that one, a little bit more flashy sometimes, right?
look good.
And sometimes if you want to go really nuts, you want to get lots of buoyancy. This is one that's tied almost like a parachute in the back. It puffs up, but this will sit in the water like this, and all the fish are going to see is this, right? This just helps it float, and CDC floats fairly well. There's a certain don't use, and I'm gonna zoom out here a bit if I can. You guys have to look at this then. Don't use regular floatant with CDC ever. Regular floatant will sink CDC. You have to get CDC floatant. It's a totally different material, right? So here's another one, right? No,
How about
actually,
desiccant, the dry desiccant? Would that work?
yeah, dry desiccant will work, but there's actual CDC floatant out there, right? So another time, so this is another chironomid that I'll zoom in again. Another chironomid style that I will fish often. This one is not a, just hold on. Just gonna zoom in. Okay, there. This one doesn't have CDC in it, but what I'll do normally, this one doesn't, is I'll tie my body, I'll tie my little tuft in that's supposed to be a little attractor or wing bud, a little thorax, and then I'll put CDC right here, right behind the foam, and then have the foam, right? So you get those little leggies, and sometimes I'll even hold those down and have them as those trailing little legs down below, right? So
Wow. Looks
yeah, and
good.
then you can even go crazy and and so this again a CDC, but tied with some cockhackle that'll help it float forever, right? This one will float like this in the water. The rest of these will float like this, right? So
Cool.
anytime I see those trout sipping, just coming over and sipping, right, or just their little dorsal fin coming out of the water or whatever, I know they're taking emergers. They're taking either emergers or they're taking stuck in the shuck or injured chironomids or whatever, injured mayflies, whatever, right? If they're just taking that little swirl, that little sip, just subsurface, I immediately go for either one of those that I was showing you, or I go for and this is probably the most popular chironomid fly in all of the UK, the shipman's buzzer, right? I'll go with one of these. And these, again, you can put a little bit of, this isn't CDC, it's just poly yarn. So put a little bit of floatant on those and have this on a dry line and it'll just sink maybe that far below the surface. And this will sit up and they'll act like your little gills. But crazy, crazy good. And I tie them in chartreuses and blacks and olives and black with red butts, green with red butts, straight black, but always with 3 turns, maximum 4, but usually 3. Like this one actually is wrong. The Brits, if you tie them with 4, they get mad. So,
All right.
so yeah. So,
Okay. Any other questions for Rick? Rick, I really appreciate your taking your time out of your schedule to come and share with us. It was very, very very educational, and I learned a lot, and I'm sure that everybody else did. So
Hey.
Cool. Well, I'm glad I was able to show you guys a few new techniques and stuff. It's one of those things where, especially when you've got a lot of tires that, I mean, I've been tying forever. It's difficult to find new techniques that they haven't seen, right? So that's why I wanted to really concentrate on British style of tying, because they tie so different than we do.
that's for sure.
Rick, there was a
Well,
question asked about
Yep.
fulling mill and your thought about fulling mill CDC.
Fulling mill, I would say, is again up there with the hens. It's again one of the better run of the mill CDCs, right? It's a good CDC, but I would put it in the same as hens. I wouldn't put it up there with David's. There's nobody that I could put up with David's that I've tried, at least, right? So
okay. Well, Rick, in the future, you are welcome anytime. Just let me know what your schedule looks like, and we'll be starting up again in October. And
you let me know. You let me know when you have time, and I'll gladly come and do another demonstration. The further I have notice, the better, because then I'll schedule everything around it. So
exactly. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Again, thank you very much.
you're very welcome.
Okay, just wanted to let y'all know that our next session will be April 1st. Tim Jacobs, whom Mike Kelly got me in touch with, will be coming on to talk about deer hair techniques on bass bugs and deer hair trimming techniques. I don't think we've had anybody on before that did just exclusively worked on that particular issue and topic. So should be a good one. And I'm always interested in the bass bugs that are tied with deer hair, and they are fascinating flies, in my opinion. Any other questions or comments before we call it a night?
Rick?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hi, Wilson here. Just an option, instead of Booby tubes, what you can do is put a couple of foam balls into some stocking. So there we are there, just a couple of foam balls into stocking.
Oh, okay.
And yes, for us it works well.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
What size are those balls? Do you know?
Oh, look, these ones are extra large. I did it just for the purposes of the
Okay.
of the session here. They're very large, as you can see.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, in the U.S., Trout Hunter does a fairly, it's not as good as the other CDC, but it's local in terms of being in Idaho, and probably a little cheaper to get. It was $17.95 for their packages.
I just brought their website up, and it looks like not too bad stuff.
Yeah, I've never used it, so I can't say yay or nay. It put it this way: if you're buying North American or buying European, you're probably going to get okay quality. As soon as you try to go to I can show you I've got the Chinese stuff. This is from Royal CC, it's called, and there's some great stuff in it, really good, like some really nice feathers, right? And then there's some absolute garbage. So I purposely ordered this off of AliExpress just to see the quality, and I'll never buy it again, right? It's because it's just not up to par. So if you're staying with a reputable North American or European company, you're probably going to get decent CDC.
Okay. Well, you could always use it for dubbing. Okay.
Yeah, what I like doing with that crappy CDC is I'll take a hair dubbing, and I'll take that crappy CDC and I'll throw it into a coffee grinder and just give it a couple of zips, zips, and now you end up with the Leahy dubbing.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Good idea.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Again, April 1st, and we're not going to have a Fool's Day on that day. We're going to have a good session. So you're all invited, and I really look forward to seeing y'all. and we'll get some information out to you with our next invitation, and in the future, that's the way we'll be doing it. So,
if I can just one last thing, and this is a shameless plug. If you guys want to see more, twice a week I put up fly tying videos on my YouTube channel twice a week, every Wednesday and every Sunday, and it's The Fly Fish Fanatic.
okay, all right, and it's a good channel. I belong to it, so I go there. So, all right, everybody. I will bid you all adieu and a good night, and be safe and tight lines.